Hey there guys, this is Cole. Welcome back to another video. I'm talking a little quieter because my parents are sleeping, but today's movie I'm going to be reviewing is the 2019 action movie Triple Threat, starring Tony Jaa, Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, um, Iko Uwais, and etc. So, what is the plot to this movie? Well, the plot of this movie is as follows. When a when a hit gets taken out of a billionaire's daughter by a major crime syndicate, it's mercenaries versus assassins in an all-out war. So that's basically the premise to the movie, and one thing I will say, I did overall like this movie. I just finished watching it for the first time because it was free on Tubi, and again, this movie's got a really good cast. You got Scott Adkins, Michael Jai White, Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais, and now this movie was directed by a guy named Jesse V. Johnson, who actually directed the 2019 action movie, Avengement, starring Scott Adkins, which I recently watched that for the first time, and I reviewed that. Rather enjoyed that movie, so when I heard that this was from the same director, I was curious, and I was also interested to check it out because a YouTuber who I'm friends with, Zach D Productions, is a big fan of Scott Adkins, and he told me this was the best movie he's done. And while I would say that I did like Avengement a little more than this, I still thought that this was a rather well done movie. And how was this movie received? Well, when it comes to the movie Avengement was a very, very well received movie by both critics and audiences. This movie, on the other hand, unlike the movie Avengers, which did receive positive reviews from critics and audiences, the reception for this movie was mixed, but I personally thought it was a rather good movie. But without further ado, let's get into my review. So, the movie starts off where we are introduced to our main character of the movie named Jaka, played by Iko Uwais, who prior to this was in the 2011 action movie The Raid, which I actually still have not yet seen that movie, but I have heard really good things about it, and after watching this, I definitely want to check that movie out. But anyways, like I said, we're introduced to Jaka, played by Iko Uwais, who is basically a man who lives in Indonesia. And at the beginning of the movie, a group of terrorists basically go into Indonesia, and they basically end up killing Jaka's wife. And so for this reason, rightfully so, Jaka, he wants to get revenge on the bad guy responsible. And the bad guy in this movie is named Collins, who is played by Scott Adkins. And this is definitely one of my favorite Scott Adkins roles of the little bit I've seen, because Scott Adkins, from what I understand, mainly when it comes to movies where he plays like the main character, he typically plays a good guy. So to see him play a bad guy, I thought was rather cool and refreshing. I also think that the action scenes are very well directed in the movie. I thought that the direction by Jesse V. Johnson was rather good. You can definitely tell that this director understands martial arts and stuff like that. You can definitely tell. And not long after Jaka, played by Iko Uwais, his wife is killed in Indonesia, he basically escapes Indonesia. And then we are introduced to a character of the movie by the name of Payu, who basically is the main character the main character of the movie, Payu, who is played by Tony Jaa, who prior to this was in the 2015 action movie Skin Trade, starring him and Dolph Lundgren, which I really enjoyed that movie. He was also in Fast and Furious 7 as one of the bad guys, which I did like that, which in my opinion was the last good Fast and Furious movie. Tony Jaa, he was in the movie Monster Hunter, which I was not a big fan of that movie, but even though I didn't like that movie, I thought performance-wise, even though I was not a fan of that movie, I thought Tony Jaa was great in it, despite me not caring for that movie, but again, I like Tony Jaa as an actor. Again, the little bit I've seen, so it was nice to see him in this as the main character. I thought that he was rather good, and another thing I do like about the movie is, again, the action scenes are well shot, and I overall like the story to this movie, where basically Payu, played by Tony Jaa, and his partner by the name of Lun Fai, played by Tiger Hu Chen, these two guys basically have to protect a billionaire's daughter because a group of terrorists want her dead. And the reason the terrorists want her dead is because she knows she has the power to basically shut their operation down and stuff like that. So I thought that the villain's motivation and all of that made sense where it was going. And one thing I will say, Tony Jaa is 50 now, and keep in mind this movie came out in 2019, so Tony Jaa would have been like 43 at the time, but he's really good in this movie. Like, he's totally taking names and kicking asses. Like, he is so good in this movie. And the name of the daughter that the billionaire's daughter in this movie is Zion, played by Selena Jade. And another thing I do like about the movie, I also like the other bad guy, Devereux, I think that's how you say his name, played by Michael Jai White, who I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff, but the little bit of stuff I have seen him in, I do like, and I do like the part when later on in the movie, when the bad guys are after this billionaire's daughter, basically Payu, and played by Tony Jaa, and Tiger Hu Chen, played by Lun Fei, basically are trying to outrun them, and Payu, played by Tony Jaa, says, "You used us as bait," and then when the bad guys are not looking, Iku Oasis, played by his character Jaka, basically tells the characters to go get away and stuff like that, and they do, and basically Iku Oasis basically lies to the main bad guy and says, "They ran through here, but I lost track of them," and then of course there's the whole part where Devereux, played by Michael Jai White, says, "I trust my gut, and my gut tells me you're up to something," and stuff like that. Like, he's basically getting the vibe that, that Ikeo Oasis's character, Jaga, like, he's getting the vibe that he's up to something he shouldn't be, and he's a good guy pretending to be a bad guy, which I thought was a rather nice touch. And I do like the part, not long after that, where Payu, played by Tony Jaa, like, he's pretending to be a chef. Like, I thought that that was a good bit of humor where he was with Zion, the billionaire's daughter, and stuff like that. Like, and his partner Lun Fai, played by Tiger Hu Chen. I thought that that was nice. And then, of course, we get to the finale of the movie where, I really like how the bad guy, Devereux, played by Michael Jai White, I really like how he goes out, where after a long fight, he basically gets impaled on, like, basically a large wooden stick. I thought that that was rather nice, rather nice way to defeat the bad guy. And then I like the part where the main character, Payu, played by Tony Jaa, is basically fighting the bad guy, Collins, played by Scott Adkins, and after a long, hard fight, I like the part when the bad guy, Collins, played by Scott Adkins, is talking to him. He says, "I should have left you in the pit." And then I love the part when Payu, played by Tony Jaa, says, "Less talk and just die." And then after a long fight, he basically attacks him with two knives and stuff like that. And he says, "Talk, talk, talk. No more talk." Like, really good finale. So, yeah. At the end of the day, I really liked this movie. I would like to get this on DVD to add to my collection someday, and yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. And if you're a fan of action movies, I would recommend this. So yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review. I'm gonna go to bed now because it is 11:15 p.m. and I gotta get up at 7 in the morning, to get some stuff done. So yeah. Anyways, we'll talk later. Bye bye now.